Back again, Chapter 3, Video 4. We are on Section 2, the fighting of the Civil War. So now we're going to get into more details about some of those battles. But, as always, the amazing, great jokes that I find on the internet. So, this one, why could the bicycle not stand up on its own? The answer, it's too tired. So, as I always say, give it a couple seconds, take it all in. I really think you guys need to start coming up with these jokes because I'm obviously not funny or remotely creative. So, anyways, that's how we get these horrible jokes. So now, fighting of the Civil War. Now the early stages. So we last finished by talking about what the different battle strategies were going to be between the North with the Anaconda Plan, and we have the South is kind of wanting to have that war of attrition. Now, President Lincoln, he is going to approve of a battle against Confederate troops near Manassas, Virginia. And this kind of goes by two different terms. The first one is known as the Battle of Bull Run, which in the North here is kind of what it's more referred to as, or in the South it's going to be known as the Battle of Manassas. Now, this early battle, the Union was winning. And almost, kind of looking at it, they were about to win. The South was about to surrender. They were about to run and try to get to safety. That was until reinforcements under Thomas Stonewall Jackson arrived. So Stonewall, just the nickname for Thomas Jackson, the Confederate general. But nonetheless, the big thing to kind of keep in mind, without going into too much of the details, is you have the Union who is about to win. Reinforcements from the South, they arrive. Then the Union, they are forced to surrender. Now again, geography is very, very important for this war. Very important for this battle. And the reason that's so important, this takes place about 20 miles away from D.C. Now, most wars, if you're fighting in someone's opposing country, and the British did this in the War of 1812, you want to get to their capital. The British tried to do this again in the Revolutionary War. Well, I'm trying to get to the Continental Congress. Now, the Confederates do not take advantage of this grand opportunity. 20 miles away from where Lincoln, where Congress, where just about everything with government takes place, they don't run and they don't try to take over D.C. So that is a very fortunate mistake for the Union. But the South, the Confederates, do not take advantage of that wonderful opportunity that they had. Now, the day after the battle, Lincoln, he signs a bill for about 500,000 more men. And at this point, he's not necessarily asking for conscription because he knows it's going to be difficult to get to that 500,000 number, asking for each of the states. So they're going to offer a bounty to enlist. And basically, the phrase that they used was a bounty. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you think of a bounty as something a little bit different. Basically, it's just a bonus. So if you sign up for the Army, you get a bonus, you get money. Depending on how long you fight, you can get more and more money, just like something that we still have around today. But back then, that was going to be kind of a big incentive to give that bounty to get people to join, to get to that 500,000 soldiers. Now the Naval War. Now, last thing we talked about for Video 3 was the Anaconda Plan. Lincoln is going to issue a blockade of all Confederate ports. And again, we're using a lot of vocab in this chapter, so it's a good idea to keep writing these ones down. But a blockade, basically, they are just going to try to block every single port that the Confederates have. They don't want them getting food. They don't want them getting supplies, basically medical supplies, army, clothing. They're just basically trying to starve them out, which again sounds really, really horrible, really morbid, but that's just the way that the war was going to be fought back then. So Lincoln issues a blockade of all Confederate ports. So to kind of counteract that, the Confederates, they start something known as blockade runners, which is going to be an example of these ships right here. Now looking at it, they look kind of slow. Technology obviously is going to be outdated from the early 1860s, but they have these blockade runners to send goods to Europe. They are still going to be able to trade because the Union, again, they're not going to be able to blockade an entire eastern side. The Union, they are spread very thin. So because of that, the blockade runners, such as the image on the right, are going to be able to get out, and they are going to be able to go to Europe and help ship things to and from that continent, so they're going to be able to get more supplies. Now, I say the Union was spread thin. Absolutely they were, but the blockade was still successful. They didn't completely stop them, but they definitely slowed them down with that war of attrition with that idea. Now, to slow them down even more, Admiral David G. Farragut is going to be sent to the south to capture New Orleans. Now, he is going to be sent with 47 warships. The South, they do not have the ability to fight against 47 warships. So he gets there. They go up and down the Mississippi, unloading about 15,000 soldiers, and 6 days later, they capture New Orleans. So again, thinking about geography, Louisiana, the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, all of those are going to be blockaded. Now, New Orleans, which is probably going to be their biggest port, they no longer can use because of the success by Farragut. But the naval war is definitely going to be something that's going to be on the side of the Union, trying to block them off. Now, the war in the West is going to be fought mostly by General Ulysses S. Grant. Now, again, dealing with the Anaconda Plan, and I'll move my webcam so you can see a little bit more of it. They are going to start to take control of rivers. Now, they're going to want to take over the Cumberland and the Tennessee rivers. Again, trying to cut them off. They basically do not want any supplies to be able to go in or out of the Confederacy. So by controlling the Mississippi, the Tennessee River, the Cumberland rivers, they are going to starve out the South, starve out the Confederates. Now, they're successful. They take over the Cumberland. They take over the Tennessee. Now, the next thing, they want to go and take over the railroads. But while they are waiting for reinforcements to arrive down the Tennessee, the Confederates, they are going to launch a surprise attack, which is going to be General Beauregard versus General Grant. Now, looking at the map here, this is where, you look at the first blue, this is where the battle is going to begin. The Confederates are able to push them back to this defensive line here, which is going to be known as the Hornet's Nest. Now, the Union and General Grant basically were just sitting there and waiting for reinforcements to arrive. The Confederates attacked early in the morning. A lot of the people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, a lot of the Union, they're eating breakfast. A lot of them are still sleeping in their tents, and all of a sudden a battle starts. They are definitely going to have a disadvantage there. But they push them back. The Confederates push them back. Let's see if we can get my mouse here. They push them back until they get to this Hornet's Nest. They sit there. They hold the line. Reinforcements arrive. Confederates are forced to surrender. Now, the last part, as it says, it is a Union victory, but it definitely comes at a cost. Altogether, there are about 20,000 casualties. A little more than 13,000 of those casualties are going to be the Unions. And with that, a lot of people in the North thought that Grant should surrender. He thought that he should have given up. Once they do win, they don't really give him like a hero's welcome. They think that Grant needs to be fired. Shouldn't be fighting in this war as a general. But Lincoln says, and this is one of my favorite quotes that came from the war. Lincoln says, "I can't spare this man. He fights. He's asking for 500,000 more soldiers." Now, here we have a general that's actually willing to go and fight, stand on the front lines. He's not willing to do so. So the war in the West is definitely going to be on the side of the Union. And the last one, the war in the East. So now in the East, it's going to be General McClellan versus General Lee. And the Union, they shift their tactics. They want to take over Richmond, Virginia. And the reason they want to take over Richmond, Virginia, that's where the Confederates have made their capital city. Just like when I talked about the early Battle of Bull Run. The Confederates are about 20 miles away from D.C., 20 miles from going and taking over the capital, but they lost that opportunity. Now, the Union, if they're able to get to Richmond, Virginia, they're not going to waste it. They are going to go and they are going to capture it. However, while McClellan is on his way to Richmond, Virginia, General Lee of the Confederates, he blocks them off. And General Lee is going to launch a series of attacks known as the 7 Days Battle. Pretty much is going to be McClellan is on the run. He is fleeing on his way back to D.C., on his way back up to the north after they get to D.C., but 30,000 casualties from both sides are going to be lost. So, we keep talking about these major battles, the Battle of Shiloh, Battle of Bull Run. There's going to be heavy casualties on both sides here. And the South, they really can't keep up with that trend. The North, they have more soldiers, but people aren't willing to fight if they know that so many people are going to be dying. But after the Confederacy win the battle, or the 7 Days Battle, they keep heading north, and they get to what's known as the Second Battle of Bull Run. Now, Lee, again, he is able to force a retreat of Union soldiers and is about 20 miles away from D.C. This time, though, they are not going to sit in the South. They are not going to wait. They are going to go to the North. Now, both Lee and Jefferson Davis think that this is going to be probably their best opportunity to go and be able to win the war. Go into the North. They can get food. They can get supplies from the North. And, in the end, possibly take over the capital.